Ladies and gentlemen, my name is James Scaresbrook, otherwise known as the Intrepid Wino, and it is yet again time for Let's Taste. For those of you who may not have heard it already, last week I released an episode of my podcast, the Vincast, episode 76, part 1, with one half of winemaking duo behind Out of Step Wine Company. Based in the Yarra Valley. So Nathan Reeves was my guest on part 1, which was released last week, and this coming week will be part 2 of that episode with Dave Chatfield. So the way that they actually got in touch with me was that I actually had met them some years ago when I was visiting Gary Mills from Jamshed. If you've seen any of my videos or heard episodes of the podcast, you would know that I'm a big fan of Gary's, and where he was making the wine at the time, actually the day that I was visiting, Dave and Nathan happened to pop in, and they gave me a bottle of their first wine, which was a Sauvignon Blanc. But more recently, I opened a bottle of the Chardonnay, I think from 2013, which I bought, and I shared it on this very channel. And the guys from Out of Step, I think Dave, in fact, saw that and reached out and said, look, I'd be happy to give you some bottles. And so I thought that I would actually invite them on the podcast. So they could actually share their story, and they were very generous enough to bring me some bottles, which was really, really fantastic. And what I'm tasting today are the two 2014 Sauvignon Blanc wines from Out of Step. So the original, 2015. So the original wine was a Sauvignon Blanc from the Lusatia Park vineyard. They have since extended, and they're doing some other Sauvignon Blanc wines as well. And so I thought, why not start with that original one? So the 2015 Lusatia Park Sauvignon Blanc from Out of Step. I think the recommended retail is about $27. So let's have a look at her. So Sauvignon Blanc is a variety that, of course, is very popular. Particularly, thanks to the power of New Zealand and Marlborough, indeed. And there are some pretty good Sauvignon Blanc wines made around Australia, some very exceptional ones, in fact. But the Yarra Valley is never particularly well known for Sauvignon Blanc, and yet what I consider to be the best Sauvignon Blanc in Australia comes from the Yarra Valley, and it was actually a former guest of my podcast, Andrew Marks, his family at Gembrook Hill have made what I consider to be the best. And so it's exciting to see Sauvignon Blanc, particularly from that Upper Yarra, more elevated part, getting more attention, getting a little bit more recognition for how good a wine it can make. And I think Out of Step is one of the producers that really does champion Sauvignon Blanc from that part of the Yarra Valley. So let's have a look. It's very light, very pale, not a lot of colour, but nice and bright. So it has some very classic Sauvignon Blanc fruit descriptors. It is in that sort of slightly more tropical area, sort of fresh pineapples. It does have a slight herbal edge, which I like, as long as it's not too green. It's not thin, but it's not also too obvious. It's fine, it's a little bit flinty as well. Let's taste. So quite generous. It's pretty incredible. 2015 wine, already showing very complete, very settled. It's got exuberance, but it's not obvious. It's not too ripe. It's very well balanced. It's coming in at 30% alcohol, so it's ripe enough that it's actually got some personality, some texture, a little bit of weight on the palate. There is depth to it, there's complexity, but it's still lovely and fresh and vibrant and juicy. It's a very delicious, very approachable Sauvignon Blanc, but it actually has a little bit more to offer. It is a little bit more food friendly. Yum. So that's the Lusatia Park. The other one is the Willowlake Vineyard, which I haven't tried before, but it is also a Yarra Valley Sauvignon Blanc. I do like the screw caps, a little bit easier to open the bottles. So similarly, quite pale, just very, very light flecks of green in there. This one's a little bit more sort of floral, I guess, a little bit more kind of like dried floral notes and dried herbs. A little bit more subtle on the fruit. It's even got a little bit talky, which is interesting. Let's taste. This one seems a little bit riper, but kind of less exuberant. It's probably even a little bit more, for me, a little bit more of a savoury kind of textural edge to it. It's got a little bit more maturity somehow. It's not as like exuberant. It's less exuberant, but it's more contained. A little bit more. I don't want to say more elegant. I think they're both as elegant as each other, but it kind of has more confidence of fruit, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's the savoury kind of almost like pine. I'm not sure if it's like sort of a woody character. Both a little bit different in terms of Sauvignon Blanc from the same region. Quite likely to be the same part of that region as well, but expressing a little bit differently. So those are two very, very good quality Sauvignon Blanc wines that I do recommend trying if you are a little bit tired of very broad, very obvious Sauvignon Blanc, particularly from New Zealand. These are hopefully going to change your mind about the opportunity for Sauvignon Blanc as producing a mineral-driven, textural white wine of personality. So definitely get in contact with the guys at Out of Step Wine Co. to find out more about these wines. Thanks very much, guys, for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button. Leave me a comment, share some feedback about these wines, or maybe suggest a wine you'd like me to taste. And make sure you subscribe to the Intrepid Wino channel on YouTube. Come and visit me at intrepidwino.com. Thanks very much for your support for this year. I hope to share many more wines like these in the new year, but until then, cheers.